Your first video will probably do 100 views. Your second video will probably do 10. And what do you think happens after you get that 10? People stop caring about it. They're like, oh, but everybody liked the first video. Why don't they like the second one? What did I do wrong this time? You didn't do anything wrong. It's just people were like, oh shit, this guy's doing this now. Let me check it out because it's the first one. And then the second one, they're like, he's doing this again.
This is Sad Boy Radio.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Sad Boy Radio. I'm your host, Matt. And today, well, we got a secondary host today. We got somebody else doing the question asking. I appreciate you coming, bro. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Let the people know who you are.
Rashad Alexander. I used to be an intern at Block Club Chicago, which is, a publication here in the city. And yeah, I found out about my guy right here. So, I'm here to tap in and tell the story.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, definitely you just taking an interest and you following up with us too. That was dope. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I know. I said I was when it was you that hit me up like a few months ago, and I was just like, I was trying to get my life together. I'm still trying to get my life together, but we here right now. So
hey, everybody's always trying to get their life together, bro. This past weekend, I didn't even want to release anything because I was just so tired and I didn't want to do the edit, and it didn't even feel right going the whole week without releasing something. So I was like, all right, we'll just put it out, man.
Yeah, because I saw that quick little video y'all posted. Was it yesterday or last night?
Yeah, it was last night.
I always gotta have content out regardless, though.
It was just one of those things where I was just tired. And so I think that for a long time, I don't want to say for a long time, but I think ever since I started this, I had this urge to just keep going, and wherever I end up, I end up. I didn't have an end goal. I didn't know when it would stop. I still don't know when it'll stop. I just keep on moving. And sometimes you just need that break, and we forget we need that break. So I was like, all right, we can chill for the week. We went crazy this year.
You preaching right now. We definitely need them breaks. We definitely, especially in this like whole media industry, man. I mean, just stuff's like constantly moving and just always like on go and stuff like that. So
yeah.
I know who you are, but I like to always make sure I introduce people when we doing this. So, good sir, please give me your first and last name, but also your role within Sad Boys Radio.
Hey, do you know my first and last name?
I know Matt. I don't know the last name.
Okay. So my name is Matthew Alvarez. I'm the host, creator, editor, founder, everything you could possibly think of for Sad Boy Radio. Set design. I got my boy Isaac here, Swift, whatever he chooses to go by for the day. He's my producer. He makes sure, the audio gets edited. He helps me set up. He does everything that I can't do alone.
Sometimes you gotta wear multiple hats just to make stuff happen. So pleasure to meet you, my guy. And just want to know. I mean, I told you when I first got here, I've seen y'all clips. Before you had followed me on Instagram, I saw y'all clips. But I never knew who y'all was until as I've gotten back from school and stuff and just been able to tap into music scene and all that, been able to see what you guys really do. So just from your perspective, kind of tell me a little bit about what Sad Boys Radio is and just kind of your inspiration to start this off.
Sad Boy Radio is a music/mental health podcast that focuses on discussing everyday life problems through the universal language of music. Now, what that means is everybody goes through something, right? Everybody experiences loss, everybody experiences heartbreak, everybody experiences this trauma that they go through. I had a conversation with my mom one time, and it kind of got to the point where we were just like, no human is perfect. Everybody's flawed, but what makes us flawed is the experiences that we go through. So it goes back to that conversation of kind of nurture and nature, or are people just naturally born good, right? And I guess that's a conversation and a debate for another day, but everybody kind of starts off as this blank canvas, and the events that shape them are, family, relationships that you go through, grief. My bad, I'm going to keep quoting a bunch of other stuff. But Ed Sheeran has a song called End of Our Youth. And in the song, the whole thing is basically revolved around the idea of the first time that you really, the first time your youth ends is when you experience loss and you experience pain, because now you grow into this person who can't see the innocence in life. All you see is the dark and the grim, but you also learn to appreciate the highs when they're high. Um, my bad, that was the long answer. But Sad Boy Radio is a podcast that focuses on discussing everyday life problems through the universal language of music and making sure that everybody feels seen in one way or another. Nobody goes through their experiences alone. And even when we do feel like nobody is listening, there's always somebody that can relate. And I just wanted to put that out there and see who might gravitate towards that. And so far, on Instagram, 11,000 people.
That's a lot of people. I saw that number. I was like, dang, who's following me?
That number went up a lot this past year. So I'm grateful for everything. And, you know, I don't want to say it anymore because I feel like shit kind of went sideways a little bit once I kept saying it. But you got to appreciate the highs while you have them, because every day is not guaranteed.
So what kind of made you decide to have this podcast not only based on mental health, but bringing the music and artist aspect? Like, has it always been, artists or music itself just being involved? And what do you feel like that aspect of it like brings to the show? Because honestly, I think that's really cool, but it's also like different. Like having, obviously people have mental health podcasts and people have music podcasts, but I feel like you don't really see both. So the fact that you're doing something that incorporates both is really cool. And I want to know what made you decide to do something like that.
I grew up watching Ebro in the Morning, The Breakfast Club, Angie Martinez, and hearing artist stories and the background behind songs is really what made me like those songs even more. If you think about Eminem, why do people like Eminem so much? You can watch the movie 8 Mile and you see his whole story, and you know Eminem's whole story just based off of the songs he's made, right? Talking about his mom, even though it's very dark and grim, you're able to learn about that artist and what they experience. And that's only one example, right? I always love the example of Bryson Tiller or Bad Bunny. I love Bad Bunny. That was my guy, especially when he was coming up. One of my favorite songs was Amorfoda, and that song is just basically saying like "fuck love." But anyways, that's a whole different thing.
That's besides the point.
That's besides the point. I'm gonna keep getting off track. My bad.
You're good.
What made me mesh music and mental health was I was a psychology major in college, and I always loved music. So from the first day of this podcast, I just kept referencing lyrics, right? Whenever I had conversations with my friends, it would go back to the idea of songs that I related to, experiences that I heard in music that I was going through, and explaining it to my friend, like, this is how I feel, this song, and bringing that to life. The idea of the podcast was meant to be a casual conversation with your friend. I've never met any of these artists prior to these interviews, but we sit down and you would never know that.
And that's good because it makes it more like just a regular human connection. You're speaking with people who are definitely on the rise within the city and being able to, express themselves not only in their music, but, also within their within these walls that we're in right here. Speaking of these walls right here, let's talk a little bit about where we are right now. Private Stock Studios. The first thing I saw when I walked in was obviously the Goodbye and Good Riddance poster. God, who else was up on there?
The Holiday, Chance the Rapper, Saba's on there. So yeah, man, this Private Stock has a lot of history. We're celebrating their 10-year anniversary at Emporium this Thursday, December 21st.
Nobody was going to invite me?
Hey, shit, bro. Now you're invited.
Shoot, I'm there. Come on now.
You got to slide to Emporium. But yeah, Private Stock, very historic place. The owners are amazing. Shout out to my boy Jason. You might need to look that up. But Jason Valcarcel, Herson Escobar, and Luis Arroyo, they're the 3 owners of the space, and shit, they took me in.
So kind of talk a little bit about the artists that you have been able to have so far. From what I can remember off the top of my head, obviously we talked about OG Stevo earlier. The FemDot interview, which I was gonna talk about later. I know that definitely got some attention on the internet. Recently, Lil Blessing and that's huge because he just had a song with Travis Scott.
Yeah.
Just kind of talk about, some memorable moments that you've had just in this room or just doing this podcast so far.
So I'm gonna break it down for you based on kind of the mindset and the eras that we were kind of in at each point, right? When we started doing this, it was very nightlife heavy. I always wanted to interview artists. And as time went on, we started to interview nightlife people and we saw 400 views, 500 views. We saw these big numbers coming from nightlife people. And I started to notice that DJs didn't get their story told. But everybody parties with these people. Everybody sees them out every single weekend. And they're fighting their own battles. You don't even know, right? And the reason you don't know is because they're the life of the party. They're taking shots every weekend with you. They're doing shit that you wouldn't even expect. So you see all these DJs and you would never know their story. And that's the story I wanted to tell. So one of the very first ones that comes off my mind is DJ Drip. At the time, are you familiar with DJ Drip?
I'm aware of him, yeah.
Okay, so at the time, DJ Drip had a kid, wasn't his kid, and when he announced it, he went to the club, got a bottle sign, and said, "You are not the father." And
damn,
he posted it. I reposted it and said, "Need that interview ASAP." And that's how we booked it, right? And then from there, we book a King Inez. After that, we're booking. I don't know who the next DJ was after that, but so many DJs, right? DJ Freddy Fresco, he's the official DJ of Sueños. You know Sueños? He's the official DJ of Sueños, so that's where we were at. We were very heavy in the DJ scene. And I'm grateful for that time. That was an amazing time. We had our event back in March 31st. And the event didn't necessarily go how I planned for it to go. I was hoping it'd go better, but it didn't. And what do you do after that, right? You got to kind of take your L, figure it out, and move on. So I figured, well, we were running out of DJs. What do we do next? Let's go back to the artist part. And we started, I think, the first one after that. I can't say the very first one, but we got a KO. Then we got an Asar. Then we got a Femdot. So, it just keeps growing and growing and growing. We got an OG Steve. We got a Little Blessing. Throughout all of that, you just keep on growing. MFMLO, Freshwaters. Who am I missing? Daylight Tone.
A lot of people will try to say, oh, these not, big people. But, these are big people in the city and that are, pretty much on the rise. Like, Steve-O, I saw him on Saturday too. He's one of my favorite rappers, out of the city, local-wise, if you want to say quote-unquote local or whatever. These are pretty good people that you getting and just being able to book. And, I feel like it's just cool because you're being able to get them on a personal level, but also earlier in their careers before whatever may take place later and stuff like that. So it's really good that you're being able to do this more on the local scene. And who knows what this could lead to in the near future. I mean, Lil Blessing, that could lead to talking with Future or something like that. You never know.
I don't like saying local because it kind of
puts them in a bubble.
Yeah, it puts them in a bubble. It doesn't necessarily feel like the best word to describe people, but I love doing this and I want to reach a global level. That's the goal, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody does something and that you start here and you want to be here eventually.
Yeah.
I think at least that should be everybody's dream, right? You should want to be at the top. Because who dreams of being mid?
Nobody.
So eventually, I do hope to interview the biggest artists in the world, right? A Drake, a Bad Bunny, a Justin Bieber, an Ed Sheeran, an Ariana Grande. Those are the biggest interviews you could possibly do. Although they might be past their prime at this point, eventually there's going to be somebody new that is at that level, and that's going to be the person I want to sit down with.
Everybody dreams of that when they get out of school or when they set these goals and these dreams or whatever. Even in my journey of just being able to, be out of school, well, even during school and out of school, and just be able to talk to people and meet people. You just never know what you could do. And this past Saturday I got to interview Carmela Wallace, who is Juice WRLD's mother, and it's just like crazy. Like you never understand. Like somebody might think, okay, that's his mom. Like this is the mom to one of the biggest artists in the world. And you just never know. And you always got to dream big because I never thought I was gonna be able to have an opportunity to do something like that. But when you get that opportunity, you better get on that because you never know what that could lead to. So I completely understand, and you're gonna get there for sure.
Where do you want to be once it's all said and done?
I just want to be able to be at a place where I know, I'm just successful in what I do. But, I like obviously everyone's gonna say like, oh, I want to be the GOAT, whatever. And I do want to be the GOAT. Honestly, right now I think I'm the GOAT. But even then, I just want to get to the highest level I can as an interviewer or as a journalist rather, because that's who I am. And just be able to tell stories the best way possible while also being myself in the end of the day. And just hopefully, just being able to kind of have other people, whether they're younger than me or whatever, from my community or whatever, and just see like, damn, he did that shit. I could do that shit too, because a lot of people when you get into this industry of journalism or media, whatever, they think about it's a lot of white people that are in there. They think, that's only for them or whatever, but it's really like it's growing, and I just hope to be able to be one of them people that can make that impact and make people think that hey, I can do that too if Shad can do that shit.
Having that foundation and knowing where you want to go. And that's something that, once again, when I started this, I didn't know where it was going to go. I just did it because I needed to get some shit off my chest. And I was going through it. So as time has gone on, I've said this recently a lot more, that every year that I've been doing this, when the end of the year came, I would always think, what's next? I have no clue, because I always thought the biggest shit that we did, how do you top it? So year one, I think the biggest person we interviewed a lot of people for 1 year, right? I think the biggest person we interviewed was these guys, Abel and Adam Martinez. Adam Martinez now has a record deal with Neon 16, which is Raul Alejandro's label. He wasn't signed at the time.
But still, though, you get to talk about the stories beforehand.
Yeah. You get the origin story of who they are, and that's really what Sad Boy Radio is, right? We're telling the origin story, and we're telling your story up until today. Year two, the biggest person we probably interviewed was, I don't know, King Inez. King Inez is a great person, right? She's on the Sorry Poppy tour. She's a media.
Oh yeah, she lit right now.
Yeah, she's a marketing genius when it comes to what she does, right? The all girls events, Y2K, all that shit. Year three so far, the biggest person we've interviewed, couldn't even tell you. We interviewed a lot of great people, but
you don't want to get messy. I feel you.
Nah, I just don't know, man. I really don't know like who the biggest person we've interviewed is, because you can go off numbers, you can go off what's hot right now, you can go off so many different things. And everybody's story, I was just blessed to tell it.
So your teacher outside of here, I kind of want to know, because obviously, when people go through like journeys or whatever, and like, or they do stuff like this, you never really know what they do outside of this. And so you told me that, I was like, damn, I didn't know that. So kind of talk to me a little bit about that. Like, just how do you kind of balance both doing this and teaching? And do you kind of see yourself one day kind of doing stuff where you're in a mix of both teaching or doing music stuff, or just how do you kind of like balance that stuff out?
Yeah, so I actually have an After School Matters program that focuses on podcasting. So it's called Podcast Exploration with Sad Boy Radio. And that's where, I teach kids basic audio skills, basic editing skills, how to write an outline, how to maybe contact somebody you're looking to get an interview with, stuff like that.
Those are two different worlds, kind of, especially because you're because you went to school for psychology?
Psychology, yeah.
This kind of relates to that too, because it's still like mental health talk and things like that. But do you kind of see yourself still like kind of being a part of this years down the road? And obviously, you don't got to think about it too much. It's, we still young.
Sad Boy Radio is always going to be the priority. I love doing what I do as far as my job. Teaching, it's a great job. But if Drake came to me and told me, I'll give you an interview that's going to give you $100,000. You can quit your job right now. what do you think I'm gonna do?
And with these interviews, obviously you got a lot of different personalities coming in, whether they're big, maybe a little bit smaller, whatever, you still got a lot of interviews that come in and out of this room. Do you feel like these interviews kind of benefit more the artists, yourself, or do you feel like it doesn't matter as long as somebody's talking in here and content's being put out?
I put out what you allow me to put out. And if you say something that really hits somebody deep in the heart, that's great. You know what I'm saying? So I don't look at like the benefits perk. I look at it as, are we able to make somebody not feel as alone as they were feeling before?
I feel like people need those type of videos. Sometimes when I see like people like post certain videos, whether it's like motivational stuff, I just be like, cool, whatever. But then it's like when you really listen to them and sit down, it's like sometimes they hit you at like the perfect time when like you dead ass like needed to hear that. So, it's always good. And, especially with, excuse me, with what you're doing with like Instagram Reels, TikTok, all that. Like all that stuff, it's short, quick, but people could really get something out of those 30-second videos. And you probably have no idea how many people have been affected by these videos too.
One video that comes to mind is man, The Mind had a lot of great clips. You know The Mind, right?
Think so.
So The Mind's the one that had like 3 million views on one of our videos.
Dang.
In the video, he's talking about, trauma makes you forget things. It affects your memory. And that one went crazy, and I had no clue that it would. The craziest part is these ones that blow up to millions of views, you don't even think. You're just like, I'm just putting this out because I need to put a third video out today. And that goes crazy on one platform, and then you see it blow up on the other platform. Femdots, the anxiety one, that had 1 million on TikTok and 1 million on Instagram. I had no clue that it would do that. Shout out to Fem. Fem's an amazing artist, an amazing person, an amazing speaker. That interview was great. That's one of the very few interviews that I've gone back and listened to all the way through. And man, that definitely was one of my favorites for sure.
It could be like the most random video, whether it's like educational purposes or like mental health awareness, or it could be some dumb shit. You'll never know what happens if you don't just post it and see what happens.
Shit, Big Sean liked our shit. Cole Bennett liked
for
our
real?
shit. Yeah. And that was early on, right? That wasn't even when we were going crazy. They liked it back then. Some girl, one of the girls from Fifth Harmony, Lauren, I don't know how to pronounce her last name. She commented on our video like, you never know who's watching this shit.
I was gonna bring up that Femdot video because I remember, and I think this is how like I first started to know about y'all, because I saw the Femdot video, but then he had posted. This is so funny.
The girl walking up to him at the party as a dude.
Yeah, he was like talking to a girl or something at a bar or a club or whatever. And then somebody they pull up on him like, ain't you the motherfucker with anxiety?
Bro, I literally told him like, bro, I'm dead for real. That shit was stupid.
But at the same time though, it's crazy because that somebody recognized him. Like he makes music. And he has like 30K on Instagram, but they recognized him off that video. Like, isn't that kind of crazy to think about?
Aren't you the dude that raps? Aren't you that dude with anxiety? And the way that he said it, oh my gosh. Bro, Fem's funny as fuck. Especially, did you watch his video promoting his concert?
Yeah.
How he's like, make sure you guys go buy a ticket, and if you don't, you're a bitch.
I interviewed him about a month ago for a Block Club interview too. He a cool dude. And like he grew up with guys that I've been around and stuff. So
Lewis actually managed him. Lewis is the owner here.
We spoke about earlier. I mean, 11K on IG, 1.2K on YouTube. I think TikTok at like what, 1,600 or something like that.
TikTok is at like 8,000.
Damn, my bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why I put that one there. My bad.
And that might be how much I'm not following 1,600, but no, they're at 8,000. It might be like the like amount. The likes almost at like 500,000.
Two questions. How do you feel like y'all have grown, not just number wise, but just like kind of through this podcast since you first started, and where do you just see yourself growing from here on out?
I think understanding myself, understanding where I'm at in life and the periods that we go through. When I first started this, I talked a lot on it, and sometimes I would have conversations with my old producer, and I would be like, damn, am I talking too much? Like, could I cut this out? What do you think we could change? And at that time, the podcast was about me. That's why it all started. I was going through things and I needed to get those stories out. Both my so I started this in 2021. Both my grandmas passed away. I stopped talking to certain people in my life, all within like, I don't know, a month within each other. And that was January. So right out the gate, 2021 should have been like the worst year of my life. But I flipped it around. I created this. I threw a boat party. I graduated college. I made it sure that it wasn't. And growing through that, I learned to understand my emotions. I learned how to communicate. I learned to set boundaries for myself. So 21-year-old Matt is completely different from 23. Me at 23, I'm a better communicator. I know how to guide a conversation. I'm not stuck here trying to figure out like, damn, this person's not talking. How am I going to get them to talk? At first, that was something that was hard because it's like, you're doing this for the first time. You don't know what somebody's like, let alone they don't know you. How do you get them to open up to you without making it weird? You know, without telling them like, oh no, but give me a better answer.
Like, bro, say something.
Yeah, like, you know, that's how a lot of podcasts are. That's how a lot of interviews potentially go. And that's not it. Like, people come here, they know what it's about. They know what they're getting themselves into. And you just got to make them comfortable. So I think that from the aspect of personally, we've grown in the sense that we know how to be more personable. We know how to set boundaries. We know how to communicate better. As far as like the personal wise, right? As far as the professional wise, shit, the editing. The editing goes a lot crazier. I was actually editing some old clips and throwing them up on TikTok this past weekend. The color grade was terrible. I didn't know how to color skin back then, so everybody looked pale as fuck. What the fuck else? Didn't know that I could zoom in. The audio would. I look back on a lot of those videos and I'm like, what the fuck was going on? We thought this was good. Like, like once again, shout out my boy Isaac. That should be sounding crispy. You would not even be able to tell like there was an issue.
How do you feel about the podcast game right now, where it's going, and just, you know, how you feel like you fit in the mold?
Yeah, I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this, but I don't even watch podcasts. I don't listen to any podcasts. Once again, right, I said my inspiration was these radio shows, Angie Martinez, The Breakfast Club, all that. So when I think of like, I don't even know, like a podcast, like No Jumper. I know No Jumper. On the Radar, are they a podcast? Would you call them a podcast?
I think I don't watch the podcast. I watch the freestyles. I don't really watch the podcast.
Zach Sang, you know who Zach Sang is?
I ain't gonna lie, nah.
Zach Sang has done like a lot of like pop stars, I would say. Like he recently did, I mean, Leon Thomas, he's not a pop star, but excuse me. He's wrote a lot of pop records, R&B records. He's interviewed Ariana Grande, Justin Bieber, Joshua Bassett. Yeah, he's interviewed a lot of people, but like he does a good job at diving deep into who the person is and what's shaped them and how it impacted them and just shit like that. So, yeah, as far as podcasts, I don't necessarily watch podcasts. I would say I listen to more radio shows, and that's really been the formula I followed.
And there's nothing wrong with having a podcast, so y'all don't, you know, I'm a case about that.
Hey, you know what? Anytime I see that tweet, you need to take a podcast mic away from a guy. There was this one tweet I saw, and it was like, oh, God, I forgot what the fuck the tweet was. I just saw it too. It was some shit about a girl saying like, oh, all guys that have a podcast do this or something. And I was like, you're just hurt because somebody talked about you on the podcast.
Or they said some shit they knew they felt type shit.
It's always somebody being like, oh, guys will just say anything on a podcast. Like, damn, we can't talk.
We can't talk about
we
shit.
can't talk about our feelings. Fuck.
Something like this is good. I mean, you talking about music, you talking about mental health. Like, granted, I will admit, I have seen some podcasts that be talking about bullshit, but at the same time, like, I feel like, something like this, they keep it real. So fuck whoever don't like y'all.
No, I appreciate it.
So finally, like, we can go back to the original question at hand. Where do you see yourself growing from here moving forward? I know you kind of said, like, you don't really do things. You kind of live in the moment. Don't really like look too deep into the future. But we're going into the new year, so what can we kind of expect?
So when I say that in the sense that I'm so focused on where I'm going that I don't appreciate the moments that I live in. And that can be a really bad thing because say it's somebody's birthday and it's a Thursday. Video needs to be out by Friday. I'll go to dinner, but as soon as I get home, I gotta go edit. And okay, cake. Okay, I can only be here 5-10 minutes. Okay, let's go edit. So that's what I mean by when I say like I'm so focused on what I'm doing that I forget everything else. I forget everything in my personal life. As far as the future, I only see like the light at the end of the tunnel. What does the light at the end of the tunnel look like? That's like hosting the Grammys. That's the fucking dream, right? Now as far as the near future, just booking more artists that are signed to record labels. Getting media passes to my favorite concerts, to the biggest festivals in Chicago, traveling around the world, going to Los Angeles, going to New York, going to Atlanta, going to Texas, wherever the hottest artists are right now, that's where I want to be. I want to be able to interview the best. And I've interviewed a lot of the best in Chicago. I don't want to say I've interviewed every single one of the best because I'm sure there's still people out there that maybe I don't know of. There's some people I don't have access to. But how do you get access to those people? You got to keep building and you got to make them see what you're doing. So I think we're on track, man. Once again, 1 million views doesn't just go unnoticed to a lot of artists. I give somebody a follow, I'm sure the first thing they look at, follower count, right? What do you think's the next thing they look at? Who's on the page? You see a Femdot, you see an OG Stevo, okay, what are you gonna do? Check out the clip. Afterwards, you like the clip? Go to the reel section. 1 million back to back to back. What are you gonna do? At least that's what I think it is. I hope that's what it is. I don't want to come off and sound like, oh, like I think I'm the shit. Like that's not what it is. It's that you got to be humble with what you do and appreciate every single win, but you also got to realize that what you're doing is great. That's something I've always struggled with. I have imposter syndrome like a motherfucker, right? The main reason that I got along so great with my boy Jason, the owner of this studio, he believed in me. He put that battery in my back. He told me, hey, bro, like what you're doing is amazing. I saw your shit a year ago while I was just sitting at home in Puerto Rico. Like you're doing it. And even then, I still didn't see it. Even now, there's days where I'm like, like even doing this interview, right? I'm grateful. I'm happy that somebody took an interest in it. But I tell my family and they're like, oh my gosh, that's so great. And I'm like, I don't feel anything. And I don't know if that's because I just don't believe in myself or if because growing up, I was always told you could do better. I always have dreams of doing better.
Sometimes if you just kind of got to do stuff and when people notice it, they notice it. But, if you didn't notice it back then when I was struggling and I really needed somebody, why you care now? Oh, because we lit now. We got 11K followers. We got, millions of views on Instagram or whatever. And, it definitely does take some time, to really make that stuff happen. So, I'm glad that you noticed this stuff, but, it still keeps you going. This is still something that you're passionate about, regardless of what you've been through and, We appreciate the stuff like this, man.
No, I appreciate it, man. And shit, 11K is nothing compared to, where we want to be. So I don't want to get caught up on the numbers, bro.
Yeah.
I think that's always nice. The impact's going to be what matters at the end of the day. And leaving a legacy of, okay, this person was here to spread the message of what music was and share other people's stories, and making sure that those people's stories make somebody else feel better at the end of the day.
What's your message to people as they try to kind of get into this kind of industry, or even, want to be involved with stuff, or even just have big dreams in general?
If you're going to do it, make sure you want to do it and stay consistent. I think that's something we preach a lot, because it's kind of like anything you do in life. If you go to the gym, you got to be consistent. Otherwise, you're never going to see results. When it comes to this, your first video will probably... I got you. Your first video will probably do 100 views. Your second video will probably do 10. And what do you think happens after you get that 10? People stop caring about it. They're like, oh, but everybody liked the first video. Why don't they like the second one? What did I do wrong this time? You didn't do anything wrong. It's just people were like, oh shit, this guy's doing this now. Let me check it out, because it's the first one. And then the second one, they're like, he's doing this again.
And also that goddamn TikTok algorithm, that should be a bitch too. I feel you.
If you're going to do it because you love it. Stay consistent with it. And all the negative shit, you can't focus on that. Because if you focus on the negative, which is funny coming from Sad Boy Radio, if you focus on the negative, you're just going to give up even quicker.
Explain the name Sad Boy Radio. That's why I meant to kind of ask you earlier.
You want the real answer?
Yeah.
I went as Bad Bunny for Halloween. One of the people I was out with at the time, they're like, nah, you're not Bad Bunny, you're Mad Bunny. I was like, nah, Sad Bunny. And so that's where the bunny comes from.
Oh, yeah, I see that logo.
And then Sad Boy Radio, I mean, I used to always say Sad Boys for real. Like, I still do. Like, that wasn't just something that came up because I named my podcast Sad Boy Radio. It was somebody said damn, I got to go to work. Damn, Sad Boys for real. That's all it was. So, once again, inspiration came from The Breakfast Club, Angie Martinez, all of that. What are they all? Radio stations. So we're not the Sad Boy podcast, Sad Boy Radio. And yeah, that just kind of, I don't know, it sounded right.
It does got a little ring to it, so yeah.
I didn't realize I'd be called Sad Boy every time I go somewhere. That's something I didn't realize.
I would be annoyed with that shit though. I can't.
It don't bother me. I mean, shit. There's worse things you could be called. I mean, going out to the club and somebody's like, "Damn, Sad Boy, where you been at?" Like, it's unique. It's me. I can't be mad at something that I created and literally like I adopted that personality. That doesn't mean I'm sad all the time. You know what? Fuck it. You can leave that. You can tell people I'm sad all the time. I don't give a fuck.
Have people actually like recognized you though, like in person, just straight off the videos?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be at the club and the first time I ever got recognized, man, fuck this, because it was at the Mine.
Bro, the Mine. Don't talk about that place, bro.
I was at the Mine. And I don't even know what I was doing. I was walking through that little section on the floor, and somebody's like, "Damn, you're Sad Boy Radio, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." Mind you, I was wearing my hoodie, but still, a couple other times at the club. And then obviously, like, artists, a lot of artists know what it is. I never know how to handle it. I'm just like, "Oh yeah, bro, like, thanks for watching," because I appreciate everybody that watches. You can't take that for granted. That's something you can't take for granted. Like that video I posted yesterday, the little carousel, that shit got like, and mind you, like, to you, you're going to be like 100. Like, you've gotten a couple 100,000 likes. That little video got like 100 likes or some shit. And to me, that meant more than the 100,000 likes on every other video, because that was me. And yeah, so you can't take that for granted. And shit. 100 likes from this one thing, 100 likes from people that feels 10 times better than 100,000 likes from people you don't know. And that's a weird concept because I'm in the business of making sure I get 100,000 likes on every video. But when people that are watching and they care, that's a good feeling.
100,000 likes is kind of nice though.
100,000 likes is nice. That I'm never gonna tell you no, don't give me 100,000 likes.
Right.
Like once again, the mine had like 200,000 likes on one post. That shit, like I don't sit here and think about that. I watch it run up and I'm like, okay, keep running up. Like please don't stop. Whereas a video like where I'm talking, I think that one was so cool because it was me. It was me taking a break and letting people know, like, this is what I needed. Whereas, like, there's a clip out there. I think I got like 100,000 views on it. And it's me talking about how my mom had told me that you never want to be mad at somebody when you leave the house.
I saw that video.
Yeah, you never want to be mad at somebody when you leave the house because you never know what's going to happen. So make sure you tell that person you love them, even if you are the most angry you've ever been in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And that was cool to run up. But once again, I don't know everybody liking that video. You know how when you check your likes, it's like all the people that you follow back first and then all the people that you don't? That's the only part I checked.
We love that attitude.
It took a little bit to get there. There was a little period there where I was at a point where, and I said it in this video. I said it in a video somewhere. I don't know where it is. I gotta find it because that would make a hard ass clip. It sucks when the people that care about what you do are people you don't even know. Because you want the people that you grew up with, you want your family, you want them all to care about what you do. But they don't care until they see something physical, until they see something that you can hold and say, look, like my family's never going to understand what I'm doing until I'm holding like a 1 million follower plaque. And even then they're going to be like, how much are you making? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's never going to be enough until I'm financially like good for them. So that sucks, especially when I have 100,000 people that are like, damn, is he good? Is he doing all right? They don't care about how much I'm making. They don't care about how many followers I got. They just care about the message that we're saying.
You just gotta just do what you do. Let the work show, not let whatever people's standards are. Because people are always gonna be like, oh, you got 100K followers, when you finna get 500K? You got 500K, when you gonna get 1 million, And whether it's like family or, friends, whatever, like there's just gonna be people that's hating, whether you know it or not. So for me, and I like to think I have imaginary haters. Some people really maybe dislike me. A lot of people love me. But for me, man, I just move like how I want to move. And then at the end of the day,
If you don't got haters, you're doing it wrong.
Exactly, And a lot of the time, like, you got haters, but most of the time you're in a better place than they are. So what's that really show?
Keep doing your thing. And if somebody doesn't like what you're doing, why? Why don't you like what I'm doing? It's probably something within them.
I don't mean to make this like a whole, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like gospel or Christianity or faith podcast moment right now. But one thing I saw like a video, I think it was like from Steve Harvey or something that my boy had showed me. And he told me, and it's actually in the Bible too, but he told me like whatever you want to do, just write it down. Just write it down. And because that makes it a lot more, obviously you're going to work for it and you're going to pray for it, whatever. And I don't know your religious status or whatever, so I'm not going to like question that. But, just, stuff like that, writing stuff down, I feel like makes that stuff even more real because you got it on like this piece of paper or whatever. And then that allows you to really look at it and be like, okay, that means I'm really about it. So now what am I going to do next to really achieve those type of things? And so, even though I'm asking you the questions, that's just something I learned recently that I think a lot of people should know. So I would just tell that to you and to whoever else sees this video to just write stuff down, man. You never know what could. You probably already do that, and I'm just like saying the shit, but really, just write stuff down, man. You never know where it could lead to, and what it's like manifesting. But only you're just putting it on the paper, but it's what you do that's what's gonna make a reality, though.
It makes it real. I mean, all my outlines are written down. That's for a reason because I don't know. It just feels easier to. It feels easier at the end of the day.
I mean, that's all I got. But unless there's anything you want to say, mention,
Make sure you guys go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you guys go ahead and give Rashad Alexander a follow. Shout out the boy, man. He took his time to come over here and interview us.
I came to the trenches,
Hey, we're not in the trenches,
and I live by here, so
we are not in the trenches. Too far. But yeah, man, it is what it is. Sad boys for real.
Sad boys.
Peace out.
This is Sad Boy Radio.